Welcome to the Sports Legends, where you're going to get the most in-depth sports breakdowns on YouTube. I'm your host, Bull. Today, we will be continuing with our series, breaking down the potential starting quarterbacks in the SEC for 2025. And today, we'll be talking about Nico Iamaleava, who does play for the Tennessee Volunteers. Listed at 6'6", 220 pounds, clocked as fast as 21.5 miles per hour. Last season, he hit on 213 of his 334 passes. That's good for about 64%. He was accurate on 71% of his passes. Like we talked about with Arch, some of the passes were dropped, and he did throw for 2,616 yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He carried the football 91 times. Again, we're not throwing sacks into this by any means. We're talking about true quarterback runs for 528 yards, good for about 5.8 yards per carry. Nico is a very good quarterback, a very good football player, and we're about to go ahead and jump into his film. As always, y'all, please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. All right, y'all, this is going to be Nico versus Kentucky in 2024. On the first play, we're going to have Nico throwing to his tight end on this crossing route. And just like we did with Arch, like we're going to do with all these quarterbacks, paying attention to the ball placement, to the throwing motion, to the footwork, all that. Right here, the ball placement is absolutely excellent because his tight end can stay in bounds and get up the field. Now we're going to see it again from the end zone angle. And just kind of paying attention to his footwork and things like that. Looks really good. Steps up into the pocket, feels the pressure coming from the right, keeps his eyes down the field, sees his tight end wide open right here. And this is actually a more difficult pass than what it looks like because there's actually two guys underneath this. So Nico's got to lace this over their heads and also keep his guy in bounds, which we talked about. Nico did a great job with the ball placement here so that his tight end can get up the field, stay in bounds, get us some more yards, but at the same time, he's able to kind of like brace for those hits. So he's not going to be taking kill shots. It's something that Nico does a very good job with. On this next play, there's going to be some pressure coming off of the right side. Nico's going to vacate, go out to his right, and he's going to throw it to this hitch. This is just kind of showing some of his pocket presence things and, being able to throw on the run accurately. Obviously, this is a very accurately thrown football, and we will see it again from the end zone angle right here. We can see that this end is going to do a good job of getting inside of this tackle. The tackle actually does a pretty good job of anchoring things back down. Nico helps him out just by going out to the right, finding the guy quickly, and same thing that we talked about on that first pass, keeps this guy in bounds and gives him an opportunity to get up the field and make this guy miss. Now, the wide receiver doesn't do it on this play, but some other wide receivers will. That's the most important thing is you've got to give your playmakers an opportunity to make those plays, and it's on them if they don't. But overall, obviously, this is a first down on this play, and it could have been a pretty easy sack for quarterbacks that don't have the type of savviness that Nico is showing right now up to this point in this film, being able to make guys miss and things like that. So on this one, we're going to have a slot out, and Nico's going to do a good job right here of just, finding this guy. The ball placement is absolutely incredible. We're going to see it again from the end zone, and actually this outside linebacker is going to be blitzing from the outside. And, we all know where Nico is. He's not highlighted on this one, but that pass is a lot more difficult than what you might think because that guy could have very easily batted it down. So Nico's throwing motion and things like that, it has to switch up just a taste, but it's also got to be quick. His throwing motion is very fast, especially for his height. He's got longer arms. You don't typically see that from quarterbacks that are 6'6" plus, but he's got the, throwing motion of a guy that's about 6'2", 6'3", because it's laser fast. But look at this ball placement right here on this out. Keeps this guy in bounds, but also throws it away from the guy on defense, throws it up and over his head so that really only his wide receiver can make the catch, and he's able to stay in bounds and things like that. So I also like the passes that are kind of thrown off of your body. For me, guys who have good hands, that's where you want the ball to go to. You'd rather not have to try to trap the football with your body. You'd rather use your hands. So on this one, Nico's going to be throwing to his tight end. I believe that's his tight end. But this is kind of like a stock and go. So they're going to fake the screen, and he's going to fake like he's blocking, but then he's going to mosey on up the field. Nico's going to find him. And another very accurately thrown football. Good job of just kind of, getting those guys that's playing in that flat area to bite up, to open his window up just a little bit more for Nico. But we're seeing that there's three guys that could actually make a play on this football. So Nico's got to throw it over number 3's head, but he's also got to throw it, underneath those other two guys. And, he's got to keep his wide receivers still in bounds and things like that, which he does. Now, that's not a very deep pass. It's about 10, 15 yards, but it's still very accurate ball placement. And he's got a just very talented arm, very strong arm. And so far, he looks pretty accurate. So we'll see it again from right here. Boom. He's kind of looking things off, sees his guy. Man, look, that's crazy because if you see where the wide receiver's at, obviously the guy on defense to his inside, Nico places his football again high into the outside, And that's not just making it easier for his wide receiver to make that catch, but it's also keeping him safe. It's taking his body away from the contact. He's not throwing his body into that contact. If you are moving away from that contact, most of us understand like the basics of physics and things like that. That's going to lessen that blow. So I think that, again, man, his ball placement is what is the most impressive thing to me so far throughout this film. Now, on this next one, we have man-to-man coverage. This is going to be a fade, and Nico does a good job here just of kind of like looking things off. He already knows pre-snap where he wants to go. That's one-on-one. We're going to do that all day long, and the ball placement, again, is excellent. He throws it in a perfect spot, actually hits the wide receiver right in his hands, but it's dropped. So we'll see it again from the end zone angle, and you can just kind of tell what Nico's doing with his eyes and things like that right here. Boom, right, coming off of that fake, looking things off to his left, and that can hold safeties. Like we said, if you already know pre-snap, hey, we've got one-on-one coverage, the last thing that you want to do is stare that thing down to turn that into two-on-one coverage because the safety is starting to move over. So good job of holding the safety right here just by, taking that small little glance over to the left. Doesn't take much. Again, perfectly thrown football. We can see it right here. You see where the football is at. That's about as good as you can throw that pass, and it's just flat out dropped. So looking good with his short accuracy, with the kind of like intermediate accuracy, and also with the deep accuracy. So on this one, we're gonna have Nico on a play action throwing to his tight end on this kind of like streak route. And this is play action. It looks like it could be RPO, but this is play action. That's 100% pass blocking. And that's another very accurately thrown football. You can tell this how accurate it is from this end zone angle. So let this thing roll. Boom. Okay. Goes to his fake. Good job of really carrying that out to try to hold those linebackers. But we're seeing that there's three guys right here that Nico has to lace this football in between. Perfectly thrown. And actually, what you'll also see is that the ball is going to be a little bit behind this tight end. And again, that is to keep his body away from, where all of the real contact is going to be coming from our left side, right? So he's going to throw it just a little bit behind. Boom. And, it's still, he's not able to make the catch, but the tight end, they are supposed to make that catch. So this is another one-on-one coverage with the fade. And, pretty similar to what we saw before. Nico does a good job of just looking things off. Got his guy here. But this one is thrown a little bit short and a little bit to the inside. So we'll see it again from the end zone angle. This is one of the things that Nico kind of struggled with last season. He wasn't always 100% accurate on all of his deep passes. Now here, like we said, he's going to look things off. Okay. Look things off, hold that safety. And I don't think that this is horrible ball placement. So the ball should have been placed in this green area, and you can kind of see where the football is at. It's kind of to the inside, but on this play, in all honesty, the reason I don't hate this pass is because you can get pass interference. If your wide receiver has to come back through that cornerback, through that safety, through that linebacker, whoever, that typically is going to get called as pass interference. And it's not as good as a pass that goes this deep, not in college ball, but it's still very beneficial. So I don't think that it was horrible ball placement, but it definitely could have been better. So on this one, we're going to have the tight end. Let's kind of go out on a will stop right here. Okay, so will stop, you'll see this a lot versus zone coverage. It could either, be a true wheel, but, if the zone coverage, kind of opens up in a spot where you can stop, then that's where the stop comes in at. But very accurately thrown football by Nico for sure on this one. And we'll see him kind of go through, carry out his fake, gets the football out of his hands very quickly. This is about a 20-yard pass. Again, look at how quickly this tight end's able to get his shoulders up the field. That ball got there instantly. Nico threw the ball, and it got, 20 or 30 yards just like that. So a lot of times what you will hear is analysts and things like that talking about the way that the ball comes out of a quarterback's hands. Nico's one of those guys that the zip that you see on the football coming out of his hands, it's very, very instant. You could tell that he's got a very strong arm. He can make all the throws. There's no question about that at all. So on this next one, we're going to have his slot guy running a dig. It looks like this is cover 2. And Nico does a good job of fitting this, waiting and fitting this into a pretty tight window. You see that there's two guys that's up underneath this. You got to have a strong arm. Again, it's about a 20, 25-yard throw, but it's got to get there right now, right? They're like right inside of that window or very, very close to it. So not a whole lot of space for Nico to fit that into, but because he has such a strong arm, because he is so accurate, he can do things like this. So we're also seeing right here him going through his reads. He's going to look to his left. And, here, actually, he's got pressure right in his face. And I think that that's Deion Walker. Deion Walker is like 6'6", 6'7". So actually, if you even, y'all might not be able to tell this, but if you look, his center's feet are almost on top of Nico's feet. And Nico's he stands in there. He's not going to back away from this. He stands in there, throws it. And again, because he's 6'6", and because he throws over the top. He's able to fit this ball over Deion Walker's head, over his hands, and he's still very, very accurate. So the ball might be a little bit behind where this wide receiver's at, but it's in a very, very good spot. It's in a very accurate spot. You're seeing that Nico's fitting it over number one and over number two, or underneath number two. So just deadly, deadly accurate, and just very high level arm talent. So on this, Nico's going to be sprinting out, going to his right. This is a speed out, but it's a deeper speed out. And Nico, he looks good from the pocket. He looks good outside of the pocket. He actually might be even more accurate on the run than he is inside of the pocket. And he's very accurate inside of the pocket, as we just saw. So he can do a lot of different things. We're going to see it again from the end zone, and just kind of pay attention to what all's going on here. Now, that one might have been in RPO, but look at the ball placement here. Same thing that we've talked about throughout this entire film session so far. The ball's going to stay to the inside. He's letting his wide receiver brace himself, right? Like, you can catch the ball here, but then you can turn up the field and, make somebody miss and all that type of stuff. So on this one, the defense is showing a 7-man pressure. They're only going to end up bringing 5. Nico has 7 potential blockers, but he's only going to hold in 6. And I don't know if this is just from film study, and he knew, hey, like, they're going to show this pressure, but they're only going to bring 5. And he knew that he would have enough people in there to block for him, or what. But that's just something that I kind of wanted to like highlight and show you. But there is still some pressure. Nico does a good job of stepping up into the pocket, finding the guy. He's got some baller to him now. I mean, he's got a whole lot of baller to him. But we'll see it again from this angle. So we're going to see that the running back does a good job of coming across to the left and kind of picking up that guy. Nico steps up, and as he's stepping up, he keeps his eyes down the field. He's got 2 guys right here to his right, and he's going to figure out which one is the most open as he's actually getting tackled. And he finds a guy, again, keeps him in bounds. Very accurately thrown football. It's not a long pass, but it's very accurate. So on this, Nico's going to roll out, or actually sprint out to his right, and there's going to be a lot of misdirection stuff going on with this play. We're not going to break down what Tennessee's doing inside of their offensive scheme and all of that, but just understand that this tight end right here, that's highlighted in orange, he's going to come open. Nico's going to see that with pressure in his face, running to his right, falling to his right, and making this throw. Just very high level stuff here. He's a major problem. So we're going to see it again here. Boom, we'll see him kind of sprinting out, and he does have 2 guys chasing him, but he's keeping his eyes on that tight end that's wide open. He knows that he is there, and for him to be able to make that throw, running to his right, throwing it back to his left, and is that accurate, that's deadly. All right, so we're going to see on this one, we have another dig. Well, really, this is more like a skinny post. So it's kind of like a skinny post coming from this slot right here that's highlighted in orange. And this is going to be another, this window is even tighter than the previous ones that we've seen. Very tight window, and the ball was accurate. It was on point. It was just dropped. So we'll see it again right here. We'll talk about what Nico's doing with his feet. Number one, his eyes are good. He's going through all of his reads, which is great to see. So that's 1, 2, boom, right here, 3. So he works back to that skinny post. Footwork is great. His posture is excellent. Steps into the throw. Now look at how tight this window is. You want to talk about a tight window? So, we kind of talked about Arch not being as willing in the one game that we broke down to throw a much shorter pass. That was, probably about like a 7 to 10 yard pass. And it wasn't even this tight of a window, but Nico's not even afraid. As soon as he sees it, he throws it. Again, he's got very quick arm motion, and if his arm motion wasn't this quick, then he could not fit it into this window. But he's also very, very accurate right here. So, I mean, this is about, I'd say maybe in total from number 1 to number 2 might be a total of about 4 or 5 yards. So very tight window that Nico has to fit it into, and he drops it right in his wide receiver's breadbasket. But like we said, he just drops it. So on this, we're going to have the tight end work on another little wheel route. And it's kind of a wheel route. It's maybe more of kind of like a rail route, kind of like a streak. But again, Nico fits it in between several players. So we'll see it from the end zone angle. Good job carrying out that fake. Footwork looks great. And just look at this. All these people, that's almost the entire defense over there. How many people is that? That's like 6 people, right? That's half of the defense is in this one little area. And Nico can really only fit it into that little green area that we've highlighted here. That's the only place that he can really fit it into. If he throws this to the other side of this wide receiver or tight end, then that's probably going to be intercepted. It's definitely not going to be caught. But again, the ball gets there on time. Just because he has so much zip on his passes and the ball placement was so good that the tight end can still turn his shoulders up the field. So the ball placement and all that has been absolutely outstanding. Now on this one, Nico on another sprint out, going to be throwing this hook right here to his outside wide receiver. And he's going to show some really good presence as the pocket is moving. And it's not really even a pocket at that point, but he just shows that he can make people miss. Doesn't matter if it's in the pocket, out of the pocket, and he's still going to be accurate, keeps his eyes down the field. So we'll see it again from this angle. And boom, you can see that there is some pressure coming from that linebacker or whatever on defense. Nico steps up inside of him. He's keeping his eyes down the field the entire time. Found this guy. He's going to get to a good spot that he can make this throw. Now look, he's throwing this thing off platform. Very tight window, only about 10 yards, but a very, very tight window to fit this football into. And as we keep on going through, you're going to see just how excellent this ball placement actually is, right? So obviously, this really should be pass interference because that guy on defense, corner, safety, whatever, he's already on that wide receiver's back. The ball's not quite there yet, but you can see that it's coming to a perfect spot and it's still in bounds, and the wide receiver was able to make that catch. So that is it for Nico's film session. And that brings us to Nico's ratings. Keep in mind, it's not just about what we looked at today inside of the film session, because I watched the entire game. I watched a couple of games. So I'm grading him, his total game. What we put inside of the film session is just to give you a taste of what we see with his overall film. So let's please do keep that in mind. But number one, Nico's mechanics, I think that they're really good. I gave him a 95 right here. So his pocket presence, it's really good for the most part, but really more of like his footwork, his posture, his throwing motion, all of that type of stuff. It's pretty close to textbook. His throwing motion is really quick, like we talked about, and he also throws it over the top, which is going to keep the football from getting batted down as much. And also, he's really tall, so it's not just about what he does inside of the pocket, but also outside of the pocket. Keeps his eyes down the field, keeps the ball in a spot where he can throw it quickly and also be very accurate. He gets his hips into his throws. Even whenever he's throwing off platform, he still gets some torque with his hips and things like that. So I think that he's really good there. He's not going to be as good as like an Arch Manning because he hasn't been playing football as long as Arch, but also Arch has probably been getting trained to play quarterback since he was born. So I don't know if anyone's going to be that good. Like that was as good as, maybe I've seen probably since one of the other Mannings, just pretty much perfect. But as far as Nico's accuracy, I gave him a 95 here. Short, intermediate stuff, very accurate. Even if the ball is thrown, maybe like a little bit behind the wide receiver, I think that Nico does that for a reason. That's what I've seen most of the time. But where he kind of struggles a little bit at, I would say just a little bit more, is with his deeper passes. Mostly everybody's going to be less accurate on the deeper passes than they are on those shorter ones. But, Nico, even whenever he's off target down the field, it's typically in a spot where if his wide receiver can't make a play on it, then nobody can. And I think that's pretty much all that you can ask for. That's what you're looking for. Just try to keep the ball away from the defense as much as possible. But yeah, that's something that Nico could work on from last season, is being more accurate with his deeper passes. As far as his arm strength, like we said, I think that he could fit the football into some windows, 50, 60 yards down the field, some tight windows, pretty much at will and pretty easily, just because he does have that strong of an arm. Like we kind of touched on, you could tell as soon as the ball comes out of his hand, it jumps out of his hand, and he could probably throw the football 75, 80 yards, something like that. And if you're wondering what a 99 would look like as far as the arm strength goes, I would say look at Nico's teammate last season, Milton. I think that Joe Milton, that's what a 99 arm strength looks like. But Nico, he's not there. I don't think he's that far off. So I give him a 98 right here with his arm strength. As far as Nico as an athlete, give him a 96 here. And I think that obviously his straight line speed is good. He's faster than he might look because he takes those longer strides, but he's also shiftier than like an Arch Manning. He could definitely make you miss. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to run through you like an Arch would, but I would say he's a lot more sudden than Arch is, right? And I think that his 40 time will probably be in the 4.4 range, something like that. But again, just talking about him not just as a runner, but also what he looks like, inside of the pocket, outside of the pocket, being able to make people miss, keep his eyes down the field, and still be able to throw from different arm angles and off platform and all that type of stuff. That's all part of it. So Nico gets a 96 right there, and his overall grade is a 96. I mean, just as far as his skill set, he is the real deal. So those are my thoughts, man. Please share yours with me down in the comment section. And if you like this video, if you learned something, please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.